Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of Faith Christian High School. My senior project is about how do we prevent our American politics from dictating our Christian faith. It has no bearing on the kingdom of God who the President of the United States is what John MacArthur, an American author and pastor of Grace Community Church, said in an interview regarding how a Christian should vote. In the United States, the intersection of politics and religion has been a long and complex and contentious issue, particularly when it comes to Christianity. A problem that Christian Americans face is idolizing politics over a relationship with God and others. A problem often overlooked because politics seems so important that everything else should just go on hold. But what is causing these lines to blur, and how do we prevent our American politics from dictating our Christian faith? It is essential to recognize the distinct nature of politics and religion. While both play important roles in shaping society, they operate within different realms and adhere to distinct principles. Politics often revolves around policies, power, and factionalism, while Christianity centers on faith, love, and spiritual principles. Nowadays, the lines between these two vastly different concepts have become blurred. The development of mass media and the rise of celebrity culture has transformed politicians into household names, elevating them to the status of pop culture icons similar to that of music or musician stars, or movie stars. The phenomenon has led to a phenomenon where presidents and political leaders are idolized in a manner similar to that of celebrities like Taylor Swift or LeBron James. In doing so, the focus has shifted away from viewing politicians as public servants entrusted with the task of governance and nation building. Instead, they are often idolized and emulated, with individuals aspiring to embody the perceived qualities and characteristics of their favorite political figures. Rather than idolizing them as flawless icons, we must hold them accountable for their actions, research their policies, and actively participate in the democratic process to ensure that their decisions will reflect the will and interests of the people that they serve. Politics, like virtually everything, can be idolized. There are many similarities between people's love for politics and their love for, say, sports teams, flying flags, wearing merchandise, and passionately hating on those who think differently. While they may seem like harmless acts, it becomes an issue when it hinders your relationship with God or causes you to sin. Exodus 20, 3-4 says, "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth." Idolatry is heavily emphasized as a sin multiple times throughout the Bible, such as in 1 Corinthians 10:14. "Therefore, my friends, flee from idolatry." And in 1 John 5:21, "Dear children, keep yourself from idols." It is easy to forget that this verse applies to all aspects of life, including politics. The history of political conflict in the United States stretches back to the nation's earliest days, with the roots of supporter disputes emerging during the debate over the ratification of the Constitution in 1787. This pivotal moment saw the emergence of two distinct camps: the Federalists, led by Alexander Hamilton, who advocated for a strong central government, and the Anti-Federalists, later known as the Democratic Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson, who favored decentralized power and prioritized states' rights. Over the course of the next few hundred years, these parties would fizzle out, and new ones would come to take their place, now leaving us with the parties we see today. Well, yes, there are multiple parties still. The main ones are the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. The Republican Party traditionally advocates for a limited role of government in society, emphasizing individual freedoms and free market principles. This stance often translates into policies favoring reduced government intervention in areas such as healthcare and social welfare. Additionally, Republicans typically prioritize supporting military capabilities, advocating for increased defense spending and a threatening-looking exterior. When it comes to social issues, the party tends to take a conservative position, opposing gun control measures, same-sex marriage, and abortion rights. The Democratic Party advocates for a more expansive role of government in addressing societal challenges and promoting social welfare. Democrats advocate for policies aimed at expanding access to healthcare, improving public education, and implementing stricter gun control measures to combat and reduce gun violence. This party also supports progressive social policies such as marriage equality and reproductive rights, advocating for LGBTQ+ rights and a woman's right to legally and safely attain an abortion. Now, there are many different denominations of Christianity. They all hold specific beliefs regarding the correlation of politics and their religion. The members of the Catholic Church appear to be split down the middle. According to the 2023 American Trends Panel Annual Profile Survey conducted on August 7th through the 27th in 2023, there was around 50% of registered Catholic voters who identified as Republican or Republican-leaning. However, looking further into the statistics, it is shown that a large percentage of those that showed preference to the Republican Party were white, with 61% of white Catholics leaning more towards the Conservative Party. On the other hand, 60% of Hispanic Catholic population were more supportive toward the Democratic Party. Another denomination, the Orthodox Church, has shown an increase over the years in their support for the Republican Party, going from 45% in 2008 up to 59% in 2020. The Latter-day Saint Church, which are the Mormons, which not necessarily a branch of Christianity, but based off of it, is very heavily in favor of the Republican Party, with 75% of them in support. However, a belief all these different groups emphasize in their teachings is that it is crucial to hold to the values of the Bible and implement them into their political beliefs. Unfortunately, this is still a struggle for many Americans, because everyone has something which they idolize, whether they choose to believe it or not. The perpetuation of conflict surrounding politics and faith is significantly influenced by the diverse landscape of news sources. Much like the political spectrum, media groups also occupy various positions along their own spectrum. Rather than seeking out impartial news outlets, which seem almost impossible to find anymore, people tend to gravitate towards news sources that reaffirm their existing beliefs, creating an echo chamber effect. An echo chamber, by definition, is a closed space where sound reverberates endlessly. And when it comes to news sources and media, this term describes the situation in which individuals surround themselves with information that echoes their own viewpoints. Instead of actively seeking diverse perspectives and challenging their own assumptions, people often opt for news sources that confirm and validate their preconceived ideas and beliefs. The trap of an echo chamber is extremely hard to break free from, because it makes us feel safe and right. We as human beings love the feeling of being right, so when we hear it from another source, we are naturally going to feel a desire to listen to them more. These news outlets cater exclusively to specific ideological or political leanings and amplify narratives that align with their audience's preferences, perpetuating a cycle of confirmation bias and intellectual stagnation. In order to reduce the negative effects of echo chambers and promote more inclusive communication and discussion, it becomes crucial for individuals to actively seek out diverse perspectives and engage with a range of viewpoints, even those that may challenge their own beliefs. By breaking free from echo chambers, individuals can pursue a more nuanced understanding of complex issues and contribute to the improvement of a more uniformed and informed society. As we can see here, there are 5 columns in which all news sources fit into. We typically listen to the ones on either side of the spectrum, depending on our preconceived beliefs. However, the smartest choice is to search for the news sources in the middle column, which are least likely to display bias towards either side, and instead truly relay news and current events to their audience. In Patrick Miller and Keith Simon's Truth Over Tribe, they address the issue of living in a tribalized society. They state that there are 3 types of anxiety: the anxiety of the crusaders, the anxiety of the hunted, and the anxiety of the bystanders. They emphasize that in a tribalized society, no one escapes the anxiety. The crusaders typically see these situations as black and white and believe that if you are not with me, then you are my enemy, while the hunted fear making a small mistake, leading to catastrophic events such as being canceled. The bystanders' anxiety comes from being fearful to speak up against their tribe's crusaders, for fear of being cast out. They would rather be silent and watch than stand up and be exiled. We take our politics so seriously that we forget that in the end, no one can steal your reputation before Jesus, and that nothing, even abandonment from your tribe, can separate you from the love of God. We've become so wrapped up in our political tribe that we think of it as more important than our relationships with our family or friends. So, how is it that we can change this in our society? As cliche as it may sound, it must genuinely be asked, what would Jesus do? Or what would Jesus have us do? And specific verses that guide Christians toward the answer are verses like Matthew 5:44. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Another, Romans 5:8. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we are still sinners, Christ died for us. And Luke 6:32-36. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Another very important verse is Matthew 7:3-5. Why do you see that speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite! First, take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's. As directly stated in the passage, Christians are not to judge others. That is God's job alone. They are instead instructed to love. So, what can we do? What can we as Christians do to change this negative path so many people have been on? It involves doing something hard and uncomfortable, and that is working on yourself first. Seek out resources that will help expand your mind. Listen to others rather than just waiting to speak. There are many resources that can be used to seek out new understandings and on these subjects, and how to be able to listen to other people's opinions without getting worked up. And some of these resources show specific examples of people with differing beliefs coming together to work out their differences and maintain their relationships. Sarah Holland and Beth Silvers are two Christian women who have almost completely different political beliefs, but are still best friends. They have two resources, which one is called a book, referred to as I Think You're Wrong, But I'm Listening, and a podcast called Pantsuit Politics. They dedicate these resources to teaching people how to have grace-filled political conversations. There's also a book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which has a chapter called Habit 5, Seek First to Understand, Then to Be Understood. And there's also the Listen First Project. This project is a group of people who are essentially living out Habit 5. According to their website, they say, Listen First Project elevates the impact of the movement to bridge divides in America. We connect the efforts of 500 Listen First coalition partners, bringing people together across divides. We manage national campaigns and strategies for social cohesion. Listen First Project is the backbone organization for collective impact to save our country from breaking apart. Another book that provides insight into how Christians can participate in God's redemptive work in the world is called Agents of Flourishing, Pursuing Shalom in Every Corner of Society by Amy L. Sherman. All these resources are highly recommended for those who want to break the cycle of division and bring peace into the midst of this chaotic world. As many of you know, my family is very involved in the arts, specifically the theatrical department. Another thing my family cares about deeply is bringing people together. And a reason why this topic is personal to me, other than having witnessed the loss of relationships due to differences in beliefs, is because in 2022, my parents founded a theater company locally with the following mission statement. Convergence Theater Company seeks to inspire curiosity, awareness, and understanding by producing high-quality performances that explore important social topics. They created this company to bring people together using the talents and abilities God has blessed them with. My family has put countless hours into this theater program with the intent of bringing people together. After all, that is the definition of convergence, to bring two or more things together. There are people of all different ethnicities, beliefs, and identities that have come to work on these shows, breaking down barriers and sparking conversations filled with love and intent to build bridges rather than force beliefs or win an argument. So, to address this problem, there are many steps that can be taken. But the overall idea we must implement into our everyday lives is that Jesus didn't discriminate, so those who call themselves Christians shouldn't either. These are my sources. Thank you for listening.